All rise. Department 22 now in session. The Honorable Susan Johnson presiding.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated. Okay, and this is the time set for sentencing. State of Nevada versus J. Marcus Roger Williams, case number C2438253-1. Did I pronounce your name right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you announce your appearances for the record? Let's start with the state.
Ewing for the state, bar number 14741.
Eric Bauman for the state, bar number 9755.
Michael Yohe, bar number 8316 for the Public Defender's Office, here representing Jamarcus Williams.
And Anna Clark, bar number 12718.
All right. And this is the time set for sentencing. Are we ready to proceed?
The state is, Your Honor.
Defense is ready to proceed as well, Your Honor.
Okay.
We did want to approach the bench on
Okay.
a quick conference before we get going. May we approach?
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to hear from the state.
Yes, Your Honor. Before I proceed, just want to make sure there's no Stockmeyer issues concerning the pre-sentencing investigation report. I do want to reference that.
There are no Stockmeyer issues, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Make no mistake, Your Honor, I don't think any of us should be here today. The fact is, today, in Las Vegas, in this very community, it's horrific to look at how many traffic fatalities we have. We haven't even seen the deadliest month yet, but we're at more than 70 fatality, and approximately 1/3 of those are DUI related. Your Honor, DUI is something that's completely preventable. You can get an Uber, you can get a taxi, you can call a friend or family to get you home safely. Frankly, in this particular case, Mr. Williams' friend, who he was drinking with, actually did the right thing by ordering Uber to go home, which was captured by the camera. There's so many things we can do to prevent tragedies like this to happen. I mean, it just makes no sense that all the family members come in for two individuals. His family, this is not a holiday where families get together for something joyful. His actions destroyed all of these families. His co-workers standing behind him. It's absolutely astonishing the things that DUI can do to this community. We rely on people's good decision making. You drink something, you enjoy your night after work, like Mr. Williams did, you drink responsibly. Who else do we rely on? These officers. Your Honor, I personally handle probably hundreds of fatalities at this point. I can tell you, you, me, anybody in this courtroom, Mr. Williams' families are equal opportunists when it comes to being victimized by DUI. I have infants who are killed as a result of DUI. I have a dad who's just giving a ride home to a daughter gets killed by a DUI driver. Everyone has the same opportunity to get hurt. There's no excuse to what you're doing. And these officers are shining examples. And mind you, Your Honor, this is actually not the first police officer involved DUI case that I handled personally. Just last year, Officer Jerry Santos, G-E-R-E-N Santos, he was a motorcycle officer on his way responding to a DUI, just like Trooper Felix and Trooper Abate. They were responding to a DUI. In the midst of responding to a DUI, gets struck by a DUI driver. These incidents just highlight the fact that everyone, even a uniformed police officer with flashing lights on the road in the middle of the night, as obvious as that gets, can still be victimized. And Your Honor, in this case, the defendant's entire day of drinking, he went to work at 7 o'clock on that particular day. He gets off work, he started drinking at about 5 p.m. at Westgate Sportsbook. That's also roughly the time he bought his first hard liquor from a nearby gas station. He had one drink and the Westgate Sportsbook that we know of, and a bottle of hard liquor he bought from the nearby gas station. And he picked up a friend and went to Palms Casino. Until 3 o'clock that day, he bought 2 more hard liquors from nearby gas station or hard liquor store, and ordered, as far as we know, 5 to 6 drinks from the bar. At the end of the night, Mr. Williams was so intoxicated. The Palms security guards, you know what? We don't want to take your money anymore. You're causing a scene here. 4 security officers escorted Mr. Williams out of the casino, watched him get on the sidewalk, walking away from the parking lot. He literally walked by his vehicle. So the security guards stay at the scene for a little bit, making sure that Mr. Williams doesn't come back and get into his vehicle. What does he do? He hides it behind the bush, comes back, and made the decision that took the lives of our 2 troopers. What makes this case even worse is the defendant's history. As Your Honor saw, in 2007, the defendant had a DUI already. He attended victim impact panel. He wanted to do DUI school. Those things did not make an impression on him. And the fact pattern of the 2007 case is shockingly similar. The defendant, Mr. Williams, was driving so erratically, he ran a motorcycle officer off the road. That's why he was pulled over. Luckily, that cop didn't get hurt. So that case and this case share shocking similarities, Your Honor. So we have 2 families today. Trooper Felix. Your Honor, by doing on the DUI team, I actually have some personal contact with Trooper Felix. He was one of the troopers work graveyard who helped this community by making countless DUI arrests. He comes to court always prepared. I remember seeing Trooper Felix just a couple of weeks before this incident happened. He's leaving behind a wife and many of his children who can no longer have any memories with him. And with Trooper Abate, Your Honor, his kid is so young, they don't even have any relationship with him yet. And that's what makes this whole thing just so sad. I've read Mr. Williams' family support letters. He seems like a great dad. His 2 sons wrote beautiful letters in support of him. But you know what? His family can still touch him, talk to him, can still have Christmas in the future. None of the things that these families can still do. They can just sit here, wishing that they can touch and say hello. Frankly, none of them even get an opportunity to say goodbye. That's what makes DUI cases so sad. It's because Mr. Williams' conduct destroyed not just their families, but his own. Your Honor, this community relies these troopers to help prevent similar tragedies from happening. I have no doubt Trooper Abate and Trooper Felix's jobs on the road prevented many tragedies like this from happening. Just like what they were doing before they were killed on the night off. So based on this, Your Honor, based on the tragic incident in this case, based on all the mitigation parties have already done by getting rid of the hit and run charges and reckless driving charges, the state asks you, on behalf of this family, on behalf of the troopers, on behalf of this community, asks you to sentence the defendant to the maximum possible sentence. And that is 8 to 20 for each trooper for an aggregate of 16 to 40.
Counsel?
Mr. Williams would like to address the court, Your Honor, first, and then I'd like to follow up with some comments.
Okay, sir. And make sure there's a microphone in front of you, okay?
Your Honor, I would like to begin by saying I understand any ill feelings that anyone holds against me for the loss of Sergeant Michael Abate and Trooper Alberto Felix, both who wore their badge with honor while protecting and serving our community. It breaks my heart that I caused such pain for so many, and I send my apologies and condolences to both their families, friends, the Nevada Highway Patrol Department, and everyone who was affected by my actions. On November 30th, 2023, I foolishly decided to operate a vehicle while I was impaired. That was a selfish decision, and I was inconsiderate and put everyone else on the roadway at risk that night. I accept full responsibility and consequences from the result of those actions. With all the many options of safe transportation available, I still chose to get behind the wheel. I hate the stupid and ignorant decision that I made, which ultimately ended up having devastating and traumatic effects to not only myself and the two troopers, but to our families and the whole Las Vegas community. From within my conscience, I have been transparent and looking from a different perspective to understand how their mothers, fathers, wives, children, and other members of their family feel about what I have done. And I broke down to tears, and I could only imagine the current and future impact that this accident will have on their lives. I offer my sincere love and support, and hopefully with my conviction, it shall help the families continue to move forward in their grieving and mourning process, which I pray for, and hope that one day you all will be able to heal from the trauma, pain, and sorrow that I have caused in your home. It was an irresponsible and senseless act that I'm so sorry for, and my heart and prayers go out to both their families. While raising my children, I always emphasize the importance of doing the right thing. And with this accident being bigger than me, I feel that I am obligated to make things right with all parties involved, including the Nevada Highway Patrol and the Las Vegas community by standing up against drunk driving. Through my personal experience, I pledge to help keep the legacy alive of troopers Michael Abate and Alberto Felix and hold them dear to my heart with love while I speak out against drinking and impaired driving from this day forward, with the intent to influence other drivers to think before taking the chance of driving impaired. The guilt, shame, and remorse is killing me inside, and I admit that this sad event was a life-changing and horrible accident that I too must also live with for the rest of my life. Also, my wife, children, and other loved ones who too are saddened by this have been lifting their families up in prayer. And on behalf of them, I plead that Honorable Judge Johnson will have mercy and consideration when deciding what length of sentence to impose. That after my incarceration, I vow to embrace the righteous duty to be an advocate to raise awareness against driving under the influence, with the purpose that no one else should ever go through what we here today have been emotionally enduring through this deep, dark moment. I'm sorry.
Before I hear from you, counsel, I want to go ahead and, sir, I am adjudging you guilty of committing the following crimes. Count 1, driving under the influence resulting in death, a Category B felony in violation of NRS 484C.110, 484C.430, 484C.105, and count 2, driving under the influence resulting in death, a Category B felony in violation of NRS 484C.110, 484C.430, 484C.105. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, as you just heard, and that's why we wanted Jamarcus to speak first. I wanted you to hear the high
Could
level.
you get the microphone in front of you, sir? Thank you.
I wanted you to hear directly from him. And I wanted the families to hear directly from him. And understand the level of sorrow and emotion that he has about his actions on that night. You've heard, you see his guilt, shame, sorrow, pain, and empathy for Sergeant Abate and Trooper Felix, their family and their friends and colleagues. All because he made the decision to drive home after drinking that night. So now, Judge, you have the, quite honestly, unenviable position of determining what is justice here. How do you decide what the proper punishment is for someone who had absolutely no intention of doing anything harmful that night? How do you decide the proper punishment for this unintentional yet criminal act? In trying to determine it, Judge, I think you should look at the purposes of punishment. And there's a few main theories kind of underlying criminal punishment and exactly what the goals of punishment should be in this situation. The first one is deterrence. Basically the idea that if the punishment is harsh enough, the person will be deterred from ever doing anything like that again. Your Honor, as I think you just heard from Jamarcus himself, that purpose has already occurred. His actions that night have changed his life, his family, his friends, and also, of course, the lives of Trooper Felix and Sergeant Abate's family and friends. Jamarcus has to live now with the fact that he's taken 2 lives because of his actions on that fateful night. He now lives with a heavy heart. And he's actually still trying to process his emotions for the harm that he caused. And just like he told you, he wants to be an example to others of what not to do. And when he gets out of prison, whenever that is, he wants to be a positive role model in society for others. So, Your Honor, no matter how long you sentence him to today, the idea of deterrence has already occurred. Another theory of criminal punishment is what we call incapacitation. Basically the idea that someone can't stop committing crimes. So what we do is we lock them away as long as we can to basically to stop more crimes from being committed. That's certainly not the issue here. Jamarcus doesn't have a lengthy criminal history. What he has is a lengthy history of being a hardworking husband and father. Jamarcus is a proud Las Vegan who's worked his entire life to raise his family here in our community. He graduated from high school here, attended community college, and began his career here in our great city. He was married when he was 22 years old and is still married today to his wife, Mattia. Together they raised two amazing children who are now adults. And he's a hard worker. He spent 11 years at his current job, obviously, before this incident. And he started as just a part-time employee. And through his diligence, through his hard work, he worked his way up to be the valet and bell captain of that property. Jamarcus has also worked hard to maintain a great relationship with his family and his friends, as evidenced by the more than 25 letters we submitted to him from all over this country, from his family and friends. And while he clearly made a terrible decision on that, with tragic consequences, it's not as if he's a career criminal who needs to be punished simply because he can't stop committing crimes. Another idea of punishment is rehabilitation. That's already covered by the legislature and the prison's provisions. When he's sent to prison, he'll eventually be given a parole plan before he's released. That plan will include alcohol treatment, counseling, therapy. He'll be taken most likely to a halfway house at some point in time to help assimilate himself back into society. If he's ever allowed to drive again, he'll be ordered by Your Honor to have a breath interlock device on any vehicle that he controls. So the state already has policies and procedures in effect for that aspect of rehabilitation. And Jamarcus, I think, has made clear nothing like this will ever happen again. And he's going to work to make sure that nothing like this happens for anybody else, that they fall into the same position he put himself into. And he'll be given the additional tools to make that work. So the final theory of punishment is retribution. Basically the idea that Jamarcus has caused great pain, and he should suffer great pain as a result. Retribution kind of aims at like an equilibrium, I guess, between the pain caused and the pain of the victims. And that's clearly an understandable instinct for Trooper Felix and Sergeant Abate's family to feel. It's a normal human emotion. You're going to hear from them when I'm done speaking. And I'm sure you're going to hear that pain. You're going to hear that they were great men. And what a loss it is to the entire Las Vegas community. The loss that we've all endured by losing such great examples in our community. I mean, we've read the same letters that you've read, seen the same pictures detailing the exemplary men that they were. Their families are hurting, and I think it's a normal human emotion for them to want him to hurt too. They want Your Honor to use that emotion in punishment. Perhaps some sort of vengeance for the harm, the hurt, the pain that he's caused all of these people. And as the state said, we shouldn't even have to be here today, but for the pain that he's caused. The anger they feel is completely understandable. These men didn't deserve to die. They were simply out there protecting our community, doing their jobs. But Your Honor, you must take into account this hurt, this pain, but you must also separate yourself from that emotion. And we're going to ask you to pass judgment on Jamarcus based on the totality of the circumstances here. As the judge It's your role to separate yourself from that emotion and what these families feel. And instead, your job is to determine what's just and what's right, what justice actually is in this scenario. We're asking you not to judge this person, Jamarcus Williams, solely on the worst day and the worst decision he's ever made in his life. We're asking you to look at everything and make a fair, just decision. So what is justice here? You have a man who's been in this community for 44 years, growing up a proud Las Vegan and choosing to make this place his home, to marry and raise children in our community. How do you consider the actions of someone who's been alive for more than 16,000 days that he spent on this earth? You read the letters we provided. Every day of his life he's worked to be a good son, grandson, husband, father, brother, friend.
Excuse me a minute. If you have a telephone, turn them off, not just vibrate, turn them off or you're going to be asked to leave. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Jamarcus is more than just the person that made that terrible decision on that night that led to these tragic results. I want to give you one example of his character that recently came to light. Your Honor knows kind of during the process of this case, the state and I work on negotiation. We met to talk about potential negotiations of how this case is going to resolve itself. Because from day one, Jamarcus wanted to admit guilt. He never wanted to take this. He knew what he had done was wrong, and he wanted to plead guilty. So one of the offers we suggested was a bit unorthodox. We talked to the state about having Jamarcus plead to a much more serious charge than he was even charged with, in exchange for what we believed to be would be a fair sentence. After much negotiation, the state was willing to agree to allow him to be sentenced to a sentence of 12 to 30 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections, but with a caveat. He would have to plead to a charge of second-degree murder.
Should I be told what the prior negotiations are?
I mean...
Can we approach the honor on this?
You want to approach?
May we approach the honor?
All right, counsel?
Your Honor, the point I was trying to get across was basically that Jamarcus only was going to admit to something that he did. And when we talked to him, he only wanted to take responsibility for the actions that he actually did. He wanted to show his boys that you take responsibility for your actions when you've done something wrong. And you stand accountable for the mistakes that you make. I think that shows you, Judge. And you certainly, as demonstrated by many of the letters that you've read, that although this was the worst decision of his life, he's determined only to make good, proper, and right decisions from here on out. So, all right, now come back to the ultimate question of what is the fair and just punishment in this scenario, taking everything to account. And your job is to have that ultimate responsibility to look at everything. Of course, you have to look at his actions that night. And the state did a wonderful job explaining those actions to you. You need to consider the hurt he's caused to everyone in this courtroom and to everyone in the Las Vegas community. But also you need to look at the man that he is. The qualities that he's shown throughout his life as a husband, father, and beloved friend to so many. You need to look at his remorse. His pledge to work as a role model in the future. And the character and emotion he showed today. Taking all these into consideration, judges, our recommendation that Your Honor sentence Jamarcus to 12 to 30 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's 6 to 15 years for each charge. We believe this sentence accomplishes all the goals that punishment is set out and designed for. Yet it also recognizes the good qualities that Jamarcus has shown throughout his life and throughout this court process. Your Honor, no decision you make is going to heal all the hurt that he caused and that these families are enduring. But this decision accomplishes the most important thing that this court is tasked with: serving justice. With that, I'll submit it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. In terms of Your Honor, this is Judy Abate, the mother, who would like to be accompanied by her daughter. Would that be okay? Who's also going to be a victim, just to hold her.
That'd be fine with me.
Ladies,
I need you to raise your right hand.
can you come over?
Is this
quickly?
one?
Yes, please. Raise your right hand.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Will you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
Judith Abate, Judith Abbate.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall I begin, Your Honor?
Sure.
Hello, Your Honor. Honorable Judge Susan Johnson. My name is Judy Abate. I am Michael's mom. I have put everything I can into trying to prepare this statement for you, but every single time I feel like it's impossible for me to explain the daily pain I now endure as Michael's mom because of this senseless death caused by Jamarcus Williams' actions. With this impossible and unthinkable reality, I will do my best to express my most vulnerable and honest self. As we all gather here on this unforeseeable day, I have decided it would be fit and right for me to speak first on our son's behalf, as I am Michael Salvatore Abate's mom. I brought Michael into this world, and it'll never be the same without him here with us. His presence is in my every breath, though his breath is no more. Michael Salvatore Abate was God's gift to us. And from Michael's strong, prideful, and loving father, the love of my life, Michael Abate Sr. 42 years ago, Mike and I married on July 11, 1982. Only 2 short years after meeting and falling in love, we were blessed with our son Michael on December 22nd, 1985, right here in Las Vegas. We didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl, as this was our gift from God. He was the best Christmas gift of all. From that day on, our lives became fuller than any parent could ever imagine. 2 years later, we were gifted from God again with our second child on March 9th, 1988. This time, to our joy and delight, was announced to us, it's a girl, and her name is Michelle Yvette Abate. We had a perfect family, mom, dad, son, daughter. Life was everything we dreamed of. Raising our children has been the most rewarding success of our lives together. Michael and Michelle went to Catholic school together, through pre-K through high school here in Las Vegas, where Michael found the love of his life, Vanessa. He found Vanessa through his racing passion, which started as a family hobby. Michael and Vanessa finally got married in 2016. And they had their beautiful baby boy, Vincent, in 2020. Michael always put his family first, and to ensure he could provide them the best life, he graduated from NHP Academy in 2014. Our perfect life was happening right before our eyes. Every holiday, family occasion, or quick get-together was so full of love that we shared between all of us. Our perfect family was growing, and we were so proud of what we all had together. Our family has always embraced each other at greeting and before leaving with loving hugs and kisses. We proudly shared our love together, and I'm so grateful for those moments. Michael had the best hugs. He'd say, "Hi, Mom," or "I love you, Mom," with his special love and care. Sometimes I wouldn't even let go of him. His hugs meant the world to me, and I'm so grateful to have shared this family tradition, because now it is all I have to hold on to as a memory. Everything is different now. This unfamiliar way is here. I have a huge empty hole in my heart. My gut gets sick like never before. My self-being isn't the same. My normal life is gone. My normal family is gone. Gone is every moment of every breath. I live with grief every second of every day. It is impossible to experience joy in a true feeling. It is beyond what words can express. My heart hurts every second I'm half dead. I'm overwhelmed thinking of my son and how I don't get to see him anymore. My heart dies every day. My pain outrules every moment of being. My nerves are shot, my mind is spinning, and I can't focus. Daily life is overwhelming, and I struggle to live normal because normal no longer exists in my world. I have to concentrate to complete simple tasks that used to come naturally. I have never been cowardly before. This has killed my life and is harder every second of every day. I no longer love me. I hate what this new has done to our family life. Every moment is agony. Nothing feels good. Nothing feels right. And I'm trying to remember to feel strong, think strong, but it's impossible. It's never going to be the best days of my life without my son. My loving, brave, and humble son is not here any longer. For one unforgivable reason, and that is why Jamarcus Williams is sitting in this courtroom in chains, only a few feet away from us. How is it humanly possible that Jamarcus Williams drove his vehicle into two men and crashed and demolished two human lives without any regard, any concern or guilt? He ignored his actions. He fled the scene. How does a person not react to human life? What's right is right and wrong is wrong. He left both of these men in the road to die and choose to drive home and go to bed. You are a man killer of two courageous men who were committed to protecting our community from people just like you, a DUI driver. Now with every new day that comes and goes with our family, our family feels the emptiness without Michael here. I live with my grief, a mom's grief. It's beyond what any words can express. When I try to explain it, it's impossible. I can no longer feel or experience joy or happiness like I used to. All the normal is gone in my life. I cry every day for every reason and every reason. The loneliness is unbearable. My heart has been left with a gigantic hole in it. It's broken and it can't be fixed. As a mother, I'm forced to bear the unbearable. This out-of-order death and loss of my son, Michael Salvatore Monte, has left me with a life full of everlasting pain, intense grief, and despair. The heinous, senseless crime of Jamarcus Williams has shattered two beautiful families' lives and all of the lives of the many people who knew them and loved them. Jamarcus Williams has destroyed my beautiful, happy, normal life. I fight with my anxiety 24 hours a day and night. I still don't know how I'm going to get past tomorrow and the next days. It's terrible to feel like a liar when I try to convince myself life will get easier. Maybe after the first year, meeting all of the birthdays and the celebrated holidays. I'm so scared and broken without my son here. How is a mom supposed to manage grief or lessen the constant suffering? I'm not a liar. This won't happen, and I will live in pain for the rest of my days. I miss my son. My written words feel weak. Nothing sounds right because nothing is right. My son should be here. Everything now is wrong. Michael didn't die, he was killed. And it wasn't by an accident. but by the decision of Jamarcus Williams, I will never be free from the grief of my son's senseless and cold death. Jamarcus Williams needs to be held accountable for killing our son. And Trooper Alberto Felix Williams is still alive. And these brave men are not. His family can go and visit him. They don't have to go to a gravesite to visit him for a heart-wrenching cry. Therefore, I hereby requested that Jamarcus Williams gets the maximum penalty that the law allows with no leniency, and for each count to run consecutively to bring justice for both of these men's lives. Your Honor, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to speak and share my broken heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Could be Mr. Michael Abacus Sr.
Your Honor.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Thank you. Will you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
My name is Michael Abadi, A-B-B-A-T-E,
Would you spell your first name?
M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Your Honor, it's hard to see this. My name is Mike Abadi. My 37-year-old son, Michael Abadi, and Alberto Felix were killed in a DUI hit and run by Defendant Jamarcus Williams 194 days ago. Williams violently smashed his vehicle into Michael, smashing him across his hood into his windshield and tossing it 30 yards down the roadside next to a storm drain. And then Williams drove off and left Michael and Alberto to die on that road alone. Williams did not care to stop to see if he could help him or even comfort him in his last moments of life. He never even cared to make a phone call or summon for help from 911 or anyone else. Instead, the uncaring, heartless coward drove off and went to bed at his mother's apartment. He damaged my son's body so terribly that we could not even have an open casket to see him or say our goodbyes to our son. Instead, we were only able to kiss his coffin. I miss my son both so badly it tears at me, and I cry or get teary-eyed at one time or another. My son Michael and I were close, always in contact with each other on the phone, by text, or with each other every day. Mike and I texted each other 3:03 a.m. that same night, only moments before he was run down and left to die. When I go to bed and try to sleep, I close my eyes, but visions flash in my mind of that white SUV and the black belt marks across the hood and the smashed windshield where my son's body hit, tearing his badge from his chest. Those visions and thoughts make my heart and stomach ache. I think of how he was left lying in the dark road alone in pain, with no help coming or even given a chance to survive. I ache inside when I look at Vincent, Michael's 3-year-old boy, who has no daddy to love, to hold, to comfort, or to learn from and grow with. Vincent came to my office and saw his dad's picture on the wall and said, with a sad face, "Grandpa, that's my dad. I want him to come down to me." Excuse me. I cannot believe that Mike is gone forever, that I will never be able to hug him or kiss him goodbye when he leaves. I will never be able to watch my son raise his son. Those are just a few things that tear at my heart and ache inside me. Yes, it hurts when I see his broken-hearted wife, Vanessa, who will have to raise her little boy and deal with the enormous pain and emptiness she also must have in her heart. I am unable to even console my devastated wife in her pain and sorrow, because when I try to, we just hold each other and cry together. Or my daughter, whose sadness tears at her heart. And I crumble, and I do cry, when I enter his shop. He alone built in his backyard to work on all his projects that he started and planned for. And see his dream car he was building sit on the lift just as he left it, never to be finished. I cry when I think of all we could have done together with him and his family in this new chapter of his life as a father and a husband at a time just as it was coming all together for them. Yes, I do try to be strong and not cry. But this is a pain that I never, ever knew would be possible to feel. It's a pain and heartache that cannot be explained to anyone who has not been subjected to this tragedy like this. I always fix things, but now I am helpless. This is something I cannot fix. There's nothing I can do that will ever change what has been done, and it eats away at me. I keep trying to keep busy with anything I can find, but it's only a facade, a cover-up to help me through the day until I go to bed, and then it all starts over. A piece of me has been torn away, and I have an empty hollowness, a void, and a terrible ache inside. I miss my boy so much. He was my pal. He was my friend. He was my answer man. And he was my champion. Excuse me. And my only hope is to one day be able to look at his pictures and speak his name without getting choked up, teary-eyed, or crying. I'm trying not to cry in front of my wife or daughter, so help keep them as strong as possible. Jamarcus Williams has shattered and inflicted our family with an everlasting pain, sorrow, and void that we have until our deaths. This pain is a pain no one should ever have to bear. William has decimated our families, and our lives are filled with everlasting grief and sorrow. Jamarcus Williams has taken the life of a son, a brother, a husband, a father of a beautiful 3-year-old boy, and so many friends. The lives of these two men, my son and Alberto Felix, were taken while they were trying to protect all of us from being killed by people like Jamarcus Williams. How many times has Jamarcus Williams driven under the influence or hit and run and not been caught? I'm sure there's a statistic for that somewhere. Your Honor, If you knew Michael, your heart would hurt, just as ours does. There's no punishment that Jamarcus Williams can receive that can ever come close to the pain, suffering, and grief that he has caused. And it's for these reasons, and many, many more, that I ask you, Your Honor, for the strongest consecutive sentences possible by law to be passed down upon him today. Please do not let the taking of these men's lives go unjustified. Thank you.
Next speaker?
Michelle Abate.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Will you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
Michelle Abate, Michele Abbate.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, my name is Michelle Abate, and I am the sister of Michael Abate. I want to thank you for the opportunity to tell you about my only sibling, Michael, and to try to explain the immeasurable devastation Jamarcus Williams' decision and choice to drive under the influence and leave the scene have caused me and my family every single day for the rest of our lives. Early in the morning on November 30th, I was in bed, sick with the flu and not feeling well. I glanced at the time on my phone and I saw several missed calls. First was my brother's coworker, Joe Delabella. 2 missed calls from him, then my sister-in-law, Vanessa, 2 from her, and 2 more missed calls from my dad. My stomach sank. I didn't want to know. I knew it was bad, but I never, ever could have ever imagined it was going to be as bad as it was. I called my dad first, and I'm forever haunted with the sounds of his voice and cry of him telling me, "Michael was killed. Michael is gone. He's gone. He's gone, Michelle." Screaming at the top of his lungs. Something I will never forget and get physically sick when I think about. My husband was woken by my screams of, "No, no, it can't be true. It can't be true." My world went into a spiral, and I can't recollect what the rest of the day looked like because all I want to do so badly is make that day disappear. I hate everything about that day, and I have pushed it so far to the back of my mind, but I know it will forever haunt me every single day for the rest of my life. A piece of my heart and soul is gone forever. I'll never be able to share any of my life with my brother again. Jamarcus Williams stole my only sibling from me. He took away all hope and possibility to continue our lives together. He selfishly made the decision to drive under the influence with no regard for anyone. I miss being able to ask my brother for help and guidance. I hurt knowing I'll never be able to learn anything from my brother anymore. My brother was serving his community, trying to assist another drunk driver, and his life was so violently taken. If Jamarcus would have stopped to render aid, maybe Alberto or Michael would still have their lives today. But Jamarcus had absolutely no regard for anyone. William still gets to see and speak to his family, but my family has to suffer every single moment of every single day. I cannot put into words the incredible heartache I have knowing that my amazing 3-year-old nephew will never know for himself who his father was, and that a promising lifetime was so easily stolen from him by Jamarcus. The indescribable pain and suffering that Vanessa lives through every moment of every day. I am the one who had to help and watch my loving parents bury their 37-year-old son, who they raised so successfully and had such a beautiful life ahead of him with a family of his own. I am the one who has a heart and mind full of anguish while trying to do my best to console each of my parents and help them live each day with this massive hole in our souls that we each share. My heart hurts for his loyal wife, Vanessa, who has to endure so much sorrow every moment of every day, fighting to make things the best she can for her and her son's life. the unsettling reality of knowing I must go to the cemetery to try to feel close to my big brother as I sit in the grass at his fresh grave site. I cannot explain the feeling of latching onto photos and videos of Michael because I'm terrified I'll forget his voice and his laugh. Knowing I'll never see him again, and all I have are my memories with him. The conflict I have of taking his photos down or leaving them up, because when I find myself staring at him, a knot forms in my stomach, and I get physically sick thinking about how he was so unfairly taken from this world because of the free choices of Jamarcus Williams. Can you imagine looking at a nice photo of someone you love and it causes you pain? This is what Jamarcus has done to me. The constant daily demand of trying to understand how I can keep my brother close to me and honor him and make him proud, while still not accepting that he is gone forever and I will never see him again. Jamarcus's choice and decisions left my family and I without a choice. We didn't get to choose any of this. He got to choose for us and for Michael and Alberto. Jamarcus Williams has proved over and over that he has no regard for the safety of himself, others, or any regard for the safety of our roadways and those that enforce it. Jamarcus carried a blood alcohol level that was at a potentially fatal level, proving his resistance and built-up immunity to alcohol. With a prior DUI offense on his record, he has shown he was already given a second chance, and he didn't learn his lessons at all. He has continued to be a danger to our entire community, and he is not capable of making the right decisions for himself, even when others of authority are blatantly telling him not to drive. His repetitive and continuously cowardly choices show his true character and self, from hiding from security in a bush for just a few minutes to getting in his car, driving under the influence, leaving the scene without any hesitation to render any kind of aid to my brother or Trooper Felix, and just leaving them to die. I cannot fathom how any person could leave people in the road to die. All I am left with is this horror of trying to imagine what my brother went through the last moments of his life. I wonder, could he have been saved? Could he still be alive? And could he be here with us if Jamarcus would have just stopped to help him? Williams knowingly drove into 2 state police officers, continued without even slowing down, driving for 5 miles with a gaping hole in his windshield where my brother's body hit so hard he went through it, so far through it his badge was torn from his chest and uniform and laid to rest inside his car. Then Williams just goes to sleep at his mom's house. What a complete danger to our society. Let us not forget that this was 100% preventable and 100% intentional and a selfish decision made by Williams again. According to the FBI, the average drunk driver drives under the influence more than 80 times before being arrested for the first time, and this was his second time getting caught for it. The amount of physical, emotional, and mental pain this man has put myself and my family through cannot be conveyed through any combination of words. I cannot explain how it feels to see my loving mother and father endure so much pain, frustration, and despair every single day. The misery that is felt to the deepest core, hoping that my little nephew will clearly remember the memories he has of his dad. I cannot explain the agonizing affliction I have watching my parents be full of pain and suffering, and knowing I have no way to take it away from them. Knowing that my mom will never be able to see her son again and hold him and hug him, and that my dad will never be able to watch his son teach his grandson the little and big things in life. Seeing Vanessa have to stay strong and march on without the love of her life by her side. The hole in my soul where my brother was, that must be filled with past memories now. The hole that was created in each of us because this 46-year-old man made decision over decision, not only to endanger everyone on the roadways, but knowing he drove his car into 2 people and still decided to drive home, even with the gaping hole in his windshield where my brother's body impacted his car and ended his life. These decisions this man has made so many times in his past. These were conscious decisions, and he continuously discarded everyone's safety. It is inexcusable, and because of him, 2 innocent civil-serving lives were taken away. My brother made a difference in this city, and it won't be the same without him. He is and forever will be my idol. He was a very talented race car driver, and he was able to bring his car handling skills to be of the most value to help serve our city and keep our Nevada Highway Patrol safe with his EVOC training. I am so proud of all he was doing and seeing how he was able to share and apply his passion for precision driving to train other officers. I truly believe he was making a difference and made our roads safer by equipping our state officers with his knowledge and driving expertise. Driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol is the #1 cause of motor vehicle crashes, injuries, and fatalities in Nevada. We have an obligation to society to show the people what the consequences of such a crime are. As of May 2nd, 2024, 131 lives have been taken, up 19% from last year. The top contributing factors of these deaths are impairment and speeding. Something must be done. There is no greater positive emotional feeling than love. Love is stronger than anything, and it's all humans desire. We can love without grief, but grief cannot exist without love. One just as strong as the other, but almost as punishment once someone we love is taken from us. My brother, the one who made me the strongest, the one who antagonized me and poked fun at me and treated me in ways that shaped me into who I am. My brother, the one who I will look up to for eternity, the one whose words would speak the most to me. My brother who made me tough, strong, independent, hard-headed, and extremely determined. If there was someone I was going to try to impress or seek approval from, it was him. My brother who supported me when I needed it the most. Jamarcus Williams took him from me, from all of us. Jamarcus Williams killed 2 innocent, serving people who were sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers. Not only did he end the living lives of these 2 young men, but he ended all of the lives that each of us had with Michael and Alberto, each of us who knew and loved them both. Something so incomprehensive. Jamarcus has destroyed so many of us forever. His actions should not only be punished by the maximum extent of the law, but should be used as a prime example of how dangerous the choice he made to drive under the influence is. Your Honor, our city, my hometown, we must do better at enforcing safety on our roadways to prevent people like Jamarcus from making the decisions to drive under the influence. What we are doing is not enough. This man killed 2 people in a single night and previously ran another officer off the road while under the influence. I said it once before, but I want to say it again. We have an obligation to society to show the people what the consequences of such crime are. Please, Your Honor, make an example of Jamarcus Williams' choices and show justice to my brother and show the people in our city that driving under the influence is a serious crime that can, has, and will continue to result in death, and the laws will be enforced to penalize at the highest extent because driving under the influence should not ever be disregarded or taken lightly. Please bring justice to my brother's life, Trooper Alberto Felix's life, and all of the other victims who have been killed and affected by people like Jamarcus Williams, who continue to make the decision to drive under the influence over and over again. Finally, I would like to close my statement with a short audio clip of my brother so that his voice can be heard, and God forbid if Jamarcus Williams ever has the chance to make the decision to get behind the wheel while under the influence again, maybe hearing the voice and advice of one of the 2 men that he killed might change his decision. The audio clip is from episode 83 of Trooper Talks and starts with the host Neil Sackmary speaking about DUI drivers. May I play the clip? Thank you.
These people are killing our society, and they are making a difference in such a negative way.
She's already heard it.
Ms. Bryan, I didn't know what was on that video tape, but to be honest with you, it's not appropriate. I want to hear from you and how it affected you, and you're very eloquent, but I think we're going to have to not play that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next speaker? Any?
Who's speaking next?
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Can you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
My name is Julie Howenstein, JuliHauenstein.
Thank you, Ms. Ellington.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Julie Howenstein, and I'm the sister of Alberto Felix. Though not related by blood, we are connected in our hearts, as he was adopted into our family at the age of 14, leaving a difficult situation and seeking a place he could call home with a family that loved and supported him. His presence in our lives was no mistake. In a moment, a heartbeat, life can change. One person's bad decisions culminating in lives lost and changing families' lives forever. That's why we're here today, to seek justice for exemplary lives taken in a senseless act. Your Honor, there are no words that can really describe what a loss it is for our family, this community, and the world in Albert's passing. In this short time I have, I'm going to do my best to share with you Albert's life and how his passing has impacted me and our family. Albert was a man who spent his life serving others. He served 24 years in the Air Force, having served in Desert Storm and time spent in Korea and Italy. After retiring from the Air Force, he went to nursing school and then ultimately decided to enter the police academy at age 50. We shared many laughs about how he was an old rookie, and yet he had no trouble keeping up with the younger guys. At his memorial, many shared how much they looked up to him and respected him. I was so incredibly proud of him. When I got the call on November 30th that Albert was killed by a hit-and-run drunk driver, I kept asking to have that repeated. What was being said? My mind just couldn't comprehend that he was gone and in this manner. This vibrant man whose smile welcomed everyone in. You can see his picture there. Whose infectious laughter could turn a frown into a smile was gone, tragically and senselessly ripped from our lives. For weeks after November 30th, it was hard to sleep as my mind kept going over and over what it must have been like for Albert in those final moments. What was he thinking? What was he feeling? Did he know he was going to die? My mind kept replaying what I imagined must have happened once the car that Jamarcus Williams was driving at a high speed and recklessly as it hit Albert, tossing him up and over the ramp onto the road below. I would see the image over and over in my mind. I would cry through the night, praying to God that he felt minimal pain, but knowing that just wasn't the case. It is now 6 months later, and while I don't see these visions every night, there are still nights that I wake up with these thoughts. The images of his lifeless, broken body as he laid in the casket will haunt me forever. The broken body that laid there was not the vibrant man I knew. There was no smile, no life, just a shell. Again, it is an image that is indelibly marked in my mind. I think about how this wasn't the first time that Mr. Williams chose to drive drunk, and how he was stopped from getting into his car at the casino and then hid and got into his car anyway. Mr. Williams had the opportunity to do the right thing, take a cab or Uber home, but instead he chose to get behind the wheel of the car. And it was at that moment that many lives were forever and permanently altered. That moment was when our life sentence was handed down. As a family, we felt immense, overwhelming grief. I have watched and walked alongside Arlene and the kids as they struggle to exist each day. Their lives were torn apart and a piece of their heart was ripped from them. Making it through each day takes immense effort. Albert's children, Elisabel, Maya, and Aries, have had to navigate really big feelings that have brought them to low, low depths, feeling like their world is caving in and there's no escape. There's no daddy. He made them feel safe and loved. And now that feeling of safety is gone. No child should have to experience this. And to think this all could have been prevented had Mr. Williams not made the decisions he did on that day in November. It was senseless. The grief that the kids feel is palpable. My heart weeps when I think that Albert will not be here to see his kids grow up. He won't be here to walk his daughters down the aisle on their wedding day, or see his son graduate from high school, or see the legacy of his grandchildren. All these important days, he won't be there. Albert did everything for his kids, from enjoying K-pop and dance with Belle, to robotics and anime with Maya, and all the space things with Aries. He fostered in them a love and passion for life, and encouraged his kids to be adventuresome and find joy in the things they love, and above all else, to be humble and kind. Albert was involved and immersed in seeing his kids develop and grow into good citizens and good people. He was such a great role model and example to them. Your Honor, Maya and Aries, Albert's two youngest children, have asked that I share a few things on their behalf. They want me to share that they feel so alone and lonely since their daddy was killed. Maya shares that people referred to her as her daddy's Minnie. She has his beautiful smile and kind heart. She wanted me to convey to you that her dad brought his smiles and joy that is really rare to find in life. And after he was killed, this was taken away, and it's hard for her to find joy. Aries shares that his dad did everything for him. He recalls that Daddy did all the driving, and on a trip to California where Daddy drove through the night, he ate sunflower seeds to stay awake, all to get them to a K-pop concert in Los Angeles. Aries also shares that they were planning a trip to Italy in 2025. His dad wanted to share Italy with him. Now they won't be able to do that. Arlene, his wife, was his other half. They did everything together, and he did everything for her. I was so proud of the husband and father he was. He supported Arlene in her professional endeavors and encouraged her in and accompanied her on many adventures. It was always together, hand in hand. She has lost herself and her will to continue on in life without her beloved Felix. I have stood beside her and held her hand through many dark days since this happened, willing her to keep living. Each breath she takes is an effort, and my heart breaks. All who met Albert were greeted with that big, beautiful smile, feeling immediately welcomed, feeling safe and all the warmth that connection, love, and friendship bring. Albert was passionate about his job as a state trooper. He felt it was his calling. And when I would press him about seeing the worst of people, his response was, "Sis, I look beyond the circumstance to the heart. I see people on their worst day, and I hope to encourage them to make better choices and have a better day tomorrow." Your Honor, this is who Albert was, through and through. He loved people and truly wanted to see them be the best they could be. This is what was taken from us on 11/30/2023. This man, though small in stature, was a giant among many. Not only a great loss to our family, but this community as well. On November 30th, Jamarcus Williams sentenced our family to life. No time off for us, for good behavior, no parole. His decisions and actions took Albert from us. We'll never see him again this side of heaven. However, Mr. Williams can see and talk to his family and experience life. He will be able to see his children grow up and talk with them. This is not afforded to us. While we know you cannot sentence Mr. Williams to life, we respectfully beg you to give the maximum sentence allowable by law to him and that his sentences run consecutive. Please, please give our family some sense of justice in this egregious, heinous act committed by Jamarcus Williams. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes. Would you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
Alyssa Bellyabbott, ALYSSABELLEYABUT. May I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Alyssa Bell. I am the eldest daughter, and I would like to start off with how it felt when I saw my dad's face for the very first time after the incident in the hospital. I was in the hospital. Not because he was sick, not because he was severely injured, but I had to see him in a state I would want no one to ever experience, especially young ones like my siblings. So what can I really say? It felt surreal, and the immediate thought being, how could this even happen for him to look like this? The image of him laying on the bed, covered up in blankets, and I could only see his face because that's all they would allow. I want no child to experience this, but I had to see him, Your Honor. I had to. I needed to, because I knew that that was going to be one of the very last times I would ever see him physically, in person. Even, it doesn't matter what state he was in, I had to see him. I needed to see him. A face that was so full of color, now drained from his body. That was not him. That couldn't be him. I kept telling myself over and over again, but it was. His eyes open, dried up blood from his mouth. The image is so vivid in my head. I had to see him, not because I believed he was gone. I didn't want to accept it. That was how I was going to see him, like that, and without even saying goodbye. Without the kids saying goodbye. Without my mom saying goodbye. I had to really see his face, not just through some photo where I now have to remember him by. His eyes that I could just look at, that used to be so full of life, were now dulled. Now the only place I can remember him is in my memory, and I didn't want that at the time, so I needed to see him. I needed to. And my memory is where he will stay, because just like that, we weren't separated by distance anymore. He is out of this world, that not even the tallest tower can reach him, no amount of money could bring him back. I love him very much, and that will never change. I think a lot of us who did get the opportunity to talk to my dad could say that he was a very outgoing and kind man, that he had this aura to him that not only did I feel, but he brought onto others, a feeling that you could just drop your guard down, that he was a father figure, that he was a role model, a great friend, and an even better father. He was a man of the people. After retiring from the Air Force, doing 24 years of service, then after some time joining NHP. It might sound cocky, but I'm just so happy and proud to call him my dad. I'm proud that he is my father, because I know how much he loved the people and to serve it. I just wanted to be just like him. I want to be just like him. I aspire and I admire. When he joined NHP, I don't think I've ever seen him so happy before, like that. He was so passionately happy. We knew how dangerous his job was. And me and my mom tried to convince him to stop, but he looked at me and I looked at him and I looked in his eyes and I could see that he would not be happy. He took great pride in his job. And not because he loved catching bad guys, but he would say to me, saving people's lives before anything bad could happen. That was something he was good at, putting an idea into a different perspective. And it would tear him apart knowing that he could have prevented a crash from happening if he was just there sooner. That's something he would tell me. And I could see how it would affect him. A certain sadness that he tries to hide because he tries to smile and be the brightest in the room, the light in your life. And these are people he's never met before, and he cares so much to want to save them, to help. Because it was just that kind of man. That was the kind of man that he was. The kind of man that without hesitation would drop everything that he's doing and help others. He'll see you from a mile away struggling, and before you can even ask for help, he's already there by your side. That's something I've always admired about my dad. He never complained, and he did everything with a smile on his face because he genuinely wants everyone to be happy. He would always tell me, look past what people show you, what you see in front of you, and look past that. He believed in that. He just wanted to create a safe space for everyone to be in. But more than anything else, he was a family man. My dad, despite being tired all the time, if he wanted to do something, he will always say, let me just get a power nap real quick, 10 minutes, that's all. And then we'll go. Wherever you want to, I'll drive you. Not knowing when he will be able to nap and sleep again. So when I say he was a family man, he was a family man. His number one priority above all was us. That we were cared for, that we were happy and safe. My mom, me, my sister, and my little brother. My dad loved my mom very deeply. He may not have said it, but it was shown in his actions. He was an acts of service kind of man, through and through. And it was actually this time, around 2 years ago, he made me promise to him that if anything were to happen to him on the job, that no matter what, protect Mama. You take care of her for me. You take care of them. You take care of her. Be strong. Those were his words, and I'll always remember them. And I will follow that through to the end. I was so lucky, so lucky to have spent an amazing 20 years with him. But that's just it. I got my chance with him, to love him, to be with him. But what about my younger brother? What about my younger sister? My younger sister is only 11 years old, and my brother, who is only 8. My dad has so much more love to give to them that he showed me and that he showed to everyone. He has so much to offer, and they deserve it all. They can't get that anymore. Me and my mom can only offer and give them so much, but nothing compares to a father's love. A father's love for his kids. And his hugs. The ones that make you feel safe, that make you feel protected. I will never get to feel that feeling again. My siblings will never get to feel that again. We shouldn't have to be deciding on where he's going to be buried. We shouldn't have to be finding that perfect spot underneath the tree that would give us shade for the hot summer just so we could be with him. Just so that we could see him. Can't. here we are. We shouldn't have to be doing this. And that alone is not fair. And just way too soon. It doesn't matter how nice, how kind, how remorseful or selfless you are, you still made that choice that night, that morning, to get in your car and drive. You always have a choice, and that choice will affect not only you, but affect all of us for the rest of our life. Now we have to continue to live on without Michael and my dad. We didn't even get a chance to say our goodbyes. Like any girl growing up, I always imagined my dad being there every step of the way, but just like that, gone in an instant, crushed. For my two siblings, they didn't even have a chance. My little brother isn't even in middle school yet, and one of the biggest celebrations is First Communion. Our dad was looking forward to that day. But now I can only believe that he was there in spirit, with the biggest smile on his face. A smile that shows how proud he is. And my little sister, who just finished her first year in middle school, she honestly has so many dreams and passions, all in which our dad supported. And just like that, her passions became his. They were basically twins. She was his mini-me. Their love for anime, and that's how he would spend quality time with her. Binge watch anime together on the couch while eating popcorn. That was their thing. And with all her robotics competitions, my dad couldn't be any prouder. Now we have to grow and hit every milestone without him. I always envisioned my dad being with me on my 21st birthday, because he was the DD for everyone. He would drive so much that he got the nickname Uber Felix. Me and him always talked about it, that we would celebrate and he would be there to protect me. Instead, on my birthday, we went to Police Week, and on that day was the Police Unity Tour in honor of the officers who have fallen. Why did I have to spend half of that day not smiling, but crying at the wall and staring at his name engraved in this wall? That will forever be in my head and in the head of others who got to see that wall, and the names of my dad and Abate's. I always envisioned my dad walking me down the aisle with me whenever I got married. To see him smiling at me in that moment is a huge milestone, and I will never get that moment with him. I always envisioned him cheering me on and whistling in the bleachers of the UNLV stadium whenever I graduate college. He always had to make it known of how proud he was of all of us. And even though it was embarrassing, that's how I knew how happy he was. That's how I knew how much he loved us. Right now, he would be telling me to breathe, and then pull me into a hug until I let go, and then he'd only pull me in tighter and tell me it's okay. But now I'm only left to imagine how that feels like. And it's been so long, I'm forgetting how that felt like. I can only imagine how his voice sounds like instead of actually hearing it. If I had to describe my dad in one word, Your Honor, it's home. He was the foundation of the family, the walls that protect, that hug to keep us safe, and the roof because he was always watching all of us. And now he really is from above. Your Honor, please give him the maximum punishment and for it to run consecutively. He not only killed one good person, he killed two. Consciously, I would not be able to forgive myself if I were to ask for anything less. For him to be on the roads again, especially since this isn't his first DUI, it is his second. He got his second chance, and that costed 2 deaths. They were sons, brothers, fathers, and husbands. I can't imagine losing my siblings to his mistakes, nor anyone if he were to get out sooner. We aren't a whole family anymore. Thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to speak.
May we approach for a moment?
Sure. Okay, next speaker.
She'll swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
My name is Arlene Felix, ARLENEFELIX.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Judge Johnson. My name is Arlene Felix. I am now the widow of Alberto Felix. We have 3 beautiful children together. And November 30, no doubt, completely changed our lives forever. Felix worked at night, and I worked during the day. But at night, I am on call until the next morning shift. The night he passed, I just got home from work, and I got called back into work. When I had a chance, I called him, and I told him I was not going to be home to wish him a safe night, because I got called in for a trauma. He said, okay, I will bring you coffee in the morning. That morning came, but he was no longer in it. NHP went to my house, and they tried to get a hold of me, but I told them I was at work. I knew something was wrong because they never come to my house, and it was too early in the morning. I called and texted Felix, but he was not answering. My mind could not function, could not work. So I looked at the trauma board on the computer, and it showed me his name. Alberto Felix. Next to that name, expired.
I ran through that long hallway to trauma, and they wouldn't let me see him because of the nature of the case. I begged to please just let me hold his hand. Anything, one last time. While waiting, my friend picked up our eldest daughter and brought her to the hospital. By the time we got to the okay from the coroner to see Felix, Felix was already so cold. His eyes were stuck open, and you could tell his soul was gone. He was no longer with us. He was really gone, and the only thing we were allowed to touch and see because of the case was his face. We couldn't even give him a hug. When they told me what happened, I immediately thought, how am I going to tell our kids? Their father's not coming home to us again. God, how do I tell them? How do I answer their innocent whys that I know that they're going to ask me? How do I tell them their father was killed? God, how do I break the worst possible news to their little hearts? And from a mother who can't imagine losing a child, how do I tell Felix's mother? On top of this, I also immediately blamed myself because the accident was near the hospital, and I wondered if he was doing his patrol near there to bring me coffee. He always took care of me and the kids, no matter how tired he was. That was his love language. I married him when I was 19. We would have been married for 23 years. That's over half my life that I've known him. Good and bad, he was always there. He was my better half, always taking care of us and always making sure we were safe and happy. That is what he lived for. Your Honor, I struggle every day as this horrible crime left me a widow to 3 kids. Every day seems like I am just trying to make it through today without time to think about tomorrow. Just struggling to pick up broken pieces. I feel I don't even have time to properly grieve his death. Since he passed, I have nightmares over and over again. And they have the same story background. We are all together, happy, going on our family adventures and trips. And all of a sudden, Felix leaves the kids and I. Without saying goodbye, he disappears. I try to find him to bring him back and ask him why, but I can't find him. And I just wake up crying and crying. Not just awake, but even in my dreams, I am haunted by this tragedy. The only purpose I have left to live is for my kids. Otherwise, if it wasn't for them, I see no reason or place for me anymore. If it wasn't for my kids, there's nothing else I want or need in this world but to lay and rest next to Felix. I no longer feel human. I no longer know who I am. I no longer feel alive, Your Honor. And my poor children, though they smile, I have not seen a true, genuine, happy smile come from their faces since that day. Can you imagine taking your child to a place you hope would bring them joy, but your child remembers their father there and pulls your arm and tells you sadly, "Mommy, I only had 8 years with my dad." How do I respond to that? I told him to never forget his dad and write it down. Write what you remember during those 8 years with your dad who loved you so much.
Can you imagine your child hurting so much? You are at a public celebration, and you look for your child, and they are on the ground crying and hiding and having thoughts of the only thing holding them back from joining their father. Can you imagine your child randomly tell you as they walk by, they wish we could all just pass right now and all be together with their dad? Can you imagine being called to pick up your child from school because they needed to get immediate help? As a mother, it hurts to see your children hurting so much. But how can I take this pain away when I know it's their dad they missed, and there's nothing I can do to bring him back? Sometimes they act in a way I've never seen them act before or raise them to be, and I ask myself, who is this child? And I have to remember, they are grieving too. They are just kids and are having a hard time expressing or understanding how they feel. Your Honor, I am not going to lie. I feel so defeated and broken. My faith is being tested. My children are being tested. I already lost my husband. I don't want to lose a child due to this crime. My career also has been affected. I left my job and took a voluntary demotion because it is hard for me to see trauma patients now or go near that area or be on call at night. Felix and I worked so hard to build a life we had. Now I am forced to rebuild a new life and sadly keep going without him. I feel sorry for Felix's mother. I had to send her back home because I was worried she might fall sick. She didn't want to leave the house anymore. She let her driver's license expire. She just wanted to stay in her room, not even to take a quick breath or fresh air and walk outside. To this day, I call her and she immediately cries. She says she cries every morning and night. In each call, you can almost feel the tears all through that phone. She is crushed. Her firstborn is gone. She is crushed. They say time heals, but I don't think any amount of time will heal this wound. 6 months has passed, and it still feels like yesterday, and at times even more painful. And with every teardrop shed from our faces, it still aches with the same sting as the day Felix was taken from us. Every moment, everything I do reminds me of Felix. It hurts just to see his smiling photo. It makes me miss him even more and reminds me that that's it. That's all I get now. I won't get to see him smile back at me again. He has such a nice smile and a big caring heart to go with it. Looking at the front door of our house, my mind plays tricks on me, hoping that he would still walk in. Seeing his minivan that he should still be taking us on adventures with. Sitting at church and looking to my left, and he is no longer kneeling and praying. Well, I wonder, what is this man praying for? Your Honor, Jamarcus's family gets to see him, visit him, call him, write him letters, and send him gifts. Well, we are left with old photos, and our memories, and a grave site, and our memories that I pray to God I will never forget. Not even a whisper we get to our fallen loved ones. Every milestone in our children's lives, their dads will not be present for. My son, with 2 years of religious education, to be able to make his first communion. And the day came, and his father was not there to see this big moment. Instead, that same day, we went to an event where he gave handcuffs engraved with his father's name to another trooper. And instead of celebrating my daughter's 21st birthday with her father, we were in Washington, D.C. for his memorial. This Sunday is Father's Day. But what is that to my children now? But another reminder that their dad was taken from them. As we spend every holiday by his grave now. Christmas was our favorite holiday. Our Christmas tree is still up. Putting the tree lights was my son's last thing he did with his dad. And when he asked me not to take it down, I knew what it meant for him, and it broke me. Every Christmas season, while everyone is joyful and cheer, will now be a terrible memory for us, as we will be reminded again and again of our painful loss. Jamarcus, these people were men like you. They bled like you. They were not just police officers. They had families and friends and coworkers that loved them. They had dreams, plans, and a lot of life still in them. You knew what you were doing. You intentionally hid from security. You knew you were not supposed to be behind that wheel. I hear you made a mistake, but taking a life is not something I would call a mistake, especially when you hit them and carelessly just left them there to die. At that moment, with you leaving there to die, to me, I would call that murder. I hear you may be a God-fearing person, but even some atheists I know would have a conscience to stop and render aid and not go home and to sleep just like you did. To sleep as if their lives did not matter. You keep making one bad decision after the other. I don't believe you are sorry. Your actions speak louder. You wanted to make a deal, but the deal you offered was to say you murdered one person. This is not a buy one, get one free. Where is your remorse there? You make it so easy to believe you are saying sorry to preserve yourself. Felix was a good man. He served 24 years in the Air Force protecting our country. And after he got out, he still wanted to continue protecting the people. So he joined NHP. I remember arguing with Felix that I will die alone. And he said, "It's not true. I know I'm not alone now. I know I am alone now, but not because of Felix's choice, but because of yours." I think of how badly Felix was hit, the pain he must have felt, how he flew and ended where he was, how his last moments might have been, and how he did not deserve to die like this. The pain is unmeasurable. Your children are adults now. My children are now fatherless. Who will teach my little ones how to play all their sports their father was so good at? Who will teach my daughter how a woman should be respected and loved by another man? Teach my son how to be a gentleman? Teach them how to drive a car? Help guide them through the challenges of life? Or give them the basic needs of making them feel safe again? All the things a father should be doing with their kids. Felix was such a great father. I can go on and on. But by your chosen actions, you punish us to a life of therapy instead of piano lessons, robotics, karate, soccer, etc. These photos of my kids visiting their father's grave is a life sentence you gave us. We didn't get to choose this sentence. We didn't have a choice. You took everything from us and sentenced us. We didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Working in the hospital, I envy those whose loved ones fall ill. I see how they could say goodbye. One last loving embrace, one last exchange of I love you, one last chance to tell each other how much they mean to each other, to pray together and thank each other for everything. In the blink of an eye, Felix and Abate were gone. We will never be complete again. He sentenced Felix and Abate to death. Your Honor, I beg and respectfully ask that you give the max possible sentence for Jamarcus and for his sentence to run consecutively. Please don't let this person get away with a crime that could have been avoided if Jamarcus was a true law-abiding citizen. He was already given a second chance when he had his prior DUI. This was a second chance that he disregarded. He had his second chance. Felix and Abate don't get a second chance. I hope you can see from these heartbreaking photos the extent of Jamarcus's actions. How hard Felix was hit that his body flew from the top of the freeway to the bottom. By the location of these officers' lifeless body away from their patrol vehicles, I can imagine how fast Jamarcus was speeding with no regard to anyone else's life around him. But I can't even imagine how the impact of Felix and Abate's body to his vehicle didn't even persuade him enough to stop and help them. Abate and Felix's lives, they valued their lives. They wanted to live. They were the true law-abiding citizens who protected each and every one of us. I pray they sacrifice every night to keep this great state safe, and ultimately their lives lost on duty serving this great state will have a meaning. I pray this same great state and the same great country that Felix fought and believed in while in the Air Force will stand and bring these two honorable, brave men justice. Your Honor, Felix voluntarily gave almost 3 decades of his life, combined with NHP and military, serving and protecting our country and community. Your Honor, I ask if it's okay for me to read a text message from a stranger that we received shortly after he passed, so you could get an idea of what kind of person Felix was in your first, with only one interaction, if that's okay.
Unfortunately, I can't do that.
Okay.
And the reason being is that the privilege of speaking is for the family and not just strangers. Otherwise, we would be here probably for months.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
For asking.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Can you please state your first and last name as well as spell them for the record?
Vanessa Abate, Vanessa Abbate.
Thank you, Ms. Abadi.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Vanessa Abate. My husband, Michael Abate, and I met 18 years ago at the young ages of 19 and 20. Can't even see it. The hardest thing in life is finding someone you can't live without and then living without them. To know a life without my husband, Michael Abate, is a cruel reality. Loving him changed my life. Losing him has done the same. I have felt no greater pain than the moment I heard the words, Michael died in the line of duty. It's been 6 months now, 6 of the worst months of my life. 94 days that were hard to breathe, hard to focus, hard to push through, hard to live without my person, the love of my life, best friend, and father to our son. I am still in denial as I feel I'm in a never-ending nightmare of someone else's life. After going through a traumatic event ending in death, you learn that you can't unknow what you know. Life looks different, and you can't go back to who you were before. That veil of innocence is gone, and we grievers would do anything to get it back, and we can't because of Jamarcus Williams. To almost daily have our 3-year-old son, Vince, cry to me that he wants his daddy to come home down from heaven to play with him for real, and to have to remind him that daddy can't, he can only visit you in your dreams, is gut-wrenching for us both. The daily thought of our 3-year-old son never really knowing his father, let alone his memory of his daddy because he's so young, it will slowly fade. Michael and our son Vince had a beautiful and powerful bond. They loved working in the shop together, being gearheads, riding around in the Razor and go-kart, racing our C-cars together, dressing up in superhero costumes, the list goes on. In the blink of an eye, that was taken away from a 3-year-old little boy. In the blink of an eye, our lives were forever changed because Jamarcus Williams made the decisions he made on November 30th, 2023. That all could have been avoided if he simply booked a ride share. If he had listened to the security guards who escorted him out of the Palms that early morning, with their words to my knowledge being, "You will not be driving in your current state." Michael Abate, 37 years young, was a pillar to our community. A man who would have always lent a hand to those who needed it. A man who risked his life every single day to make our Las Vegas community safer. Michael was a man of all trades. If you named it, he could do it. And if he couldn't, which was rare, he figured it out and mastered it. He was also Nevada State Police's Emergency Vehicle Operation Course Coordinator. He had an extensive and successful background in racing and took his skill to the department, where he prided himself on the program he recreated to ensure our law enforcement pursued incidences in the best and most effective and safe way for both our men and women in blue and our public. Michael Abate was one of those people who made life better just by being in it. To know him was to love him, and I loved him with every fiber of my being. Through our devastation, a huge fear is for my son to learn and live in a world where Jamarcus Williams, the man who killed his father, is no longer in prison, but out living his life. For our son, who is only 3 years old, anything less than the maximum penalty, the allowable law, puts Jamarcus Williams up for parole, with my son only being still in his childhood or teenage years. These are years where my son will probably just be learning the depth of the truth of what happened to his father, and giving Jamarcus Williams anything less than the max will allow him to potentially be up for parole during the same time that Vince learns these facts. With the maximum being 16 to 40 years on the 2 counts, it will at least put my son at the age of around 19 years old when Jamarcus Williams may be up for parole to be out living his life. You hear and see people so often going through loss and feel so helpless and sorry for their loved ones. Unfortunately, my husband and I both went through loss together, as we both had lost our best friends. To see their families grieve was devastating. To now be the family firsthand experiencing the many profound layers that come with it is horrific. You never truly realize the depth of grief and the depth of impact they face until you're going through it yourself. Grief is ever changing. It evolves, destroys, grows, devastates, and everything in between. It affects every single aspect of your life. Grief is real, grief is raw, grief is forever. Now as a widow, I no longer have my person to confide in and just have that end of the day conversation with. I no longer have my movie and show series best friend. I no longer feel that warmth on the other side of my bed, and I never again get to wake up to that one person I should be spending the rest of my life with. You think doing laundry for one less person wouldn't be a complaint, but to never again wash my husband's items brings me to tears every time I'm folding laundry. I now go to the grocery store, and instead of getting to grab Michael's favorite items, I now have to walk past them with a gut-wrenching feeling and tears in my eyes. To be at a department store and think, oh, I should grab that for Michael, and then quickly remind myself I can't. Now as a widow, I maintain a home and vehicles on my own. I love to cook, but not like I used to. Cooking with a toddler is a lot of work, especially with a toddler who used to get to play with his daddy while I was making meals. I now feel limited to what I can cook, because cooking a meal I know Michael would have loved, and now he can't sit at our dinner table and enjoy it with us, makes me completely lose my appetite. I now look in an empty mirror when I brush my teeth, when before I would see Michael from behind at his sink brushing his. I no longer have that person to yell out for when you leave the shower towels in the dryer or just need that extra roll of toilet paper. As a widow, I now experience panic attacks, shower screens, crippling anxiety, crying on the floor, the list goes on. As a widow, I now have to play roles mother and father. Our son now only gets one kiss at night instead of two. Our son now hugs a bear, Daddy Bear, that wears a shirt with a photo of Vince and Michael on it. Our son now only gets mommy's bedtime stories and not also his daddy's. Our son will grow up without a father, and most likely will become a different person than what he was meant to be by not having his father in his life. Vince and I now spend our holidays at a gravesite. This Sunday we will be there for Father's Day. We now attend family functions, birthday parties, and barbecues alone. Everywhere we go, there's an empty chair. As a widow, I now crave that one embrace that no other person can ever give me again. A widow that never got to say goodbye to her husband because he was so violently killed that he was not viewable. As a widow and a single mother, I now stand here today, a place that 6 months ago I never thought I would be. A place where Jamarcus Williams has put us all. A place now where I seek justice for my husband, Michael Abate, justice for Alberto Felix, justice for our family, friends, Nevada Highway Patrol, everyone here, and so many others whose lives have been utterly altered by the reckless decisions that Jamarcus Williams made that led to the death of these two amazing men. To hear Jamarcus Williams' apology, it's a nice thought, but it's just empty words. His words will never take away the decisions he made, nor will it bring my husband, my 3-year-old son's father back. On November 30th, 2023, Jamarcus Williams made the selfish decision to get behind the wheel while being highly intoxicated after being told not to drive. He then continued on to make his next decision, to disregard the flashing lights and yield to our law enforcement, causing him to hit both my husband, Sergeant Michael Abate, and Trooper Alberto Felix. At this time, Jamarcus Williams made the most inhumane decision, the decision that speaks volumes to the kind of person I feel he truly is. He made the decision to leave both my husband and Trooper Felix for dead in the street. By driving away, Jamarcus Williams made it very clear he does not care for anyone but himself. He did not care to find out if they were dead or alive, and so he fled the scene. The scene of two husbands, two fathers, two sons, two brothers, two amazing men that sacrificed their lives every single day for our Las Vegas community. Jamarcus Williams has had 17 years to get his life in order since his previous DUI in 2007. Back then, he ran a law enforcement officer off the road and was arrested with a blood alcohol level nearly double the legal limit. Since then, he's had numerous traffic stops, and now he has taken 2 lives. Jamarcus Williams was given a second chance in 2007, but instead of taking that chance he's developed such a high alcohol tolerance that after 7 to 8 hours from violently killing these men, his blood alcohol level was nearly triple the legal limit, combined with a marijuana intake almost double the legal limit. This level of intoxication not only renders him astronomically unfit to drive, but also highlights his complete disregard for public safety. His negligent state of mind endangered countless lives. It's astonishing that he survived such abuse, but for Jamarcus Williams, it seems clear that this type of abuse is just another Wednesday, as it was for him. His repeated behavior demonstrates a blatant disregard for the law and the lives of others. Serving him the maximum penalty would ensure that he is held accountable for his actions and unable to inflict further harm on our society. Thank you for allowing us this time to express the impact we now face and for considering the weight of this tragedy as you make a decision.
Yeah, Your Honor, I did show the funeral cost for the Felix family, totaling, the total here, Your Honor. $7,674 to our. We didn't get anything from our family on that for the Mr. Amanda family.
You know the expenses?
I did, no, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Williams? As you can imagine, this is a very difficult decision for me. Everyone was very poignant. And all of these statements I had an opportunity to read, and I have to say the same about those. You and your family may believe that the punishment that I impose today is harsh and maybe even unfair, but it's not the death sentence that you gave to Sergeant Body and Trooper Felix. This is what I'm going to do. First of all, there will be a $25 administrative assessment fee, a $3 DNA administrative assessment fee, a $60 chemical analysis fee, and $150 DNA testing fee, and you will submit to testing if you have not already done so. There will also be a $250 indigent defense civil assessment fee. You got good lawyers on each side of you, and you need to pay up something for that. Okay. With respect to count 1, driving under the influence resulting in death, and this is the count that affects the death of Trooper Felix. Sir, the term will be a minimum term of 8 years, a maximum term of 20 years. That will be served in the Nevada Department of Corrections. You are also further punished by a fine of not less than $2,000. Do you understand that? With respect to count 2, driving under the influence resulting in death, by the way, the statutes on both of these counts is 484C.110, 484C.430, 484C.105. With respect to count 2, and of course that is the count that applies to Sergeant Body. Sir, you will serve a minimum term of 8 years, a maximum term of 20 years. That would be served in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and in addition, you will be fined not less than $2,000 with respect to that count. The aggregate that you will serve will be 16 years to a maximum of 40 years within the Nevada Department of Corrections. Also, pursuant to NRS 484C.460, once you are released from prison, you shall have an interlock device installed and inspected on any motor vehicle that you operate at your own expense for a period of not less than 12 months nor more than 36 months. And again, that will commence after imprisonment or on parole. All right? How many days credit for time served? Is it 195?
That's correct. I have a question for 1 moment.
It's 195, Your Honor. That's correct.
Okay, 195 days credit for time served, and it's my understanding pursuant to the negotiations that all other counts are being dismissed by state.
That's correct. Correct, Your Honor. And then the restitution to Mr.
Right, there will also be restitution to Trooper Felix's family through the Division of Probation in the amount of $7,674. There will be no restitution with respect to the Abadi family?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to deal with at this point?
Not from the state.
Judge, may I approach very briefly?
Oh, absolutely.
Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I am here to brief you on the additional details, as we know them, officer-involved shooting that occurred on Saturday, June 8th, 2024. This is officer-involved shooting number 4 for 2024 and the 4th fatal shooting this year. At this same time last year, we had 2 officer-involved shootings, both of which were non-fatal. This event was a domestic disturbance call we received at 11:10 p.m. in the 5000 block of East Craig Road, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89115. You can see the location to my left. The officers involved in this incident are Officer Alfredo Ramirez Chavez. He is 23 years old and has been with the LVMPD since 2022. Officer Ramirez Chavez was armed with a staccato 9mm equipped with a tactical light. In this investigation, it revealed he fired 5 rounds. The second officer involved is Officer Cruz Littlefield. He is 24 years old and has also been with the LVMPD since 2022. Officer Littlefield was armed with an FN 509 9mm equipped with a tactical light. The investigation revealed he fired 1 round. Both officers are assigned to the East Community Policing Division, Northeast Area Command. The suspect in this case was identified as Maurice Smith. He was a 43-year-old black male adult, 5 foot 6 inches tall, weighing 145 pounds. He is pictured to my left. Smith was armed with a wrench and a 2-pronged serving fork. You can also see the picture of his weapons to my left. The following are Smith's charges had he survived: 1 count attempted murder, 2 counts battery with deadly weapon, and 1 count kidnapping. The details of the officer-involved shooting are as follows. On June 8, 2024, at approximately 11:10 p.m., Smith called 911 saying, "When police get here, I am ready to die." A female victim was heard in the background screaming that she had been hit with a wrench and that Smith was armed with a knife. We will now play you the 911 call.
Saturday, June 8, 2024, 23:09 and 12 seconds.
And whatever you walk on 690. Did you need police or medical? Okay, stay on the line. Okay, you need. I'm ready to die tonight. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, what address are you calling from?
And tell the police when they come tonight, I'm ready to die.
When officers arrived, they observed Smith inside the apartment. The door was open, and Smith was armed with what officers believed to be a knife. Smith held the female victim in a chokehold with the weapon tucked behind her back. The victim managed to separate from Smith, and an officer deployed his low-lethal shotgun. The officer fired a total of 4 rounds at Smith, which did not strike him. We will now play video of the low-lethal deployment. Smith then exits the apartment as he continues to hold the victim. After several minutes of officers attempting to establish dialogue, Smith told the officers he was going to take the victim inside and kill her. Smith then pulled the victim inside the apartment. I will now show you video that depicts Smith's actions.
We don't want to hurt you, sir. Sir, I'm asking you, please.
Officers immediately rushed towards the apartment, breaking the window with their shield. Officers observed Smith on the ground next to the victim, still armed. As Smith reached to stab the victim in the neck with a 2-pronged serving fork, both Officer Ramirez Chavez and Littlefield discharged their duty weapons. We will now play you body-worn camera from Officer Ramirez Chavez.
Sir, nobody wants to hurt you. Sir, what's your name? Just drop what you're doing. We don't want to hurt you. We don't want to hurt you, sir. Sir, I'm asking you, please. I'm asking you, please. Take her in and kill her. If you're going to take her in and kill her. Hey, stop it! Get the fuck! Don't fucking move, motherfucker! Don't move! Don't fucking move, motherfucker! Don't
The victim was rescued from the apartment, and officers began life-saving measures on Smith as medical arrived. Both victim and Smith were transported to UMC Trauma, but despite medical intervention, Smith succumbed to his injuries. We will now play you the body-worn camera of Officer Littlefield.
I'm asking you, please.
As you can see from this still image, Smith attempted to stab the victim prior to the officer-involved shooting. This concludes our briefing. Does anyone have any questions?
How's our victim doing?
Our victim is doing well. We've been in close contact with her. However, she's still in the hospital.
Was she ever stabbed in the throat?
She did receive some injuries, yes.
You said that there were some non-lethal rounds fired?
That is correct.
Okay, what sort of weapon or?
It was our low lethal shotgun, and 4 rounds were fired.
Okay.
Any prior calls for Smith in domestic violence?
I do not have an answer for that. Thank you.